Welcome back, Bears fans, to another episode of the CHGO Bears Podcast. They're giving me another run at this, you guys. Nicholas Moreano here hosting, and if you're watching live right now, you'll see the magnificent, the beautiful Greg Braggs Jr. Greg, how you doing, my man?
Doing good. Happy to be back in the noon chair. You know, did a little after dark action last night with Lester Wiltfong from Windy City Gridiron. It was a lot of fun talking with him. So, but excited to get back into the studio eventually and shake things up. But we got a little remote show, have some fun here today.
Yeah, we always have fun when it's just you and I. And of course, we have our great producer, Steven, producing. And we're just going to kind of get right into things because we have a special guest, but I know we want to introduce him in a very special way. So play it right now.
They're going to get Rome, aren't they? Bears are going to get Rome! The freaking Falcons. All right. They get freaking Rome! They get Rome! No! No! Oh, I hate it. 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 Oh, that sucks. That's a great pickup for the Bears. I can't even lie. That's a great pickup.
Love it.
All right, can we go back to some highlights now? Let's go Randall Cobb 4th down. Let's go NFC Championship game. Can we just in sake of fairness, you know?
Oh man, no, we will skip those highlights. I was at both those games, so I'll remember those well. But the Odunze moment, I mean, it's just funny to watch you react in that way because we were having, you know, a live draft party at Joe's on Weed Street, and you know, the Caleb Williams moment was great, but it was bedlam when we drafted Odunze because of the way the draft fell and the surprise of that moment. So it's interesting to see the other side of the rivalry, watch that all unfold.
Well, I mean, it also has to be weird too, like as Bears fans to experience joy, right? Because like that hasn't been there in a while. So you're just like, I'm happy. Like this feels weird. Well, because you guys also like with Caleb, like you knew it was going to be Caleb, right? Like there was months where you knew it was going to be here. So for Rome to fall to you guys, like that was my worst case scenario because like he's a stud, right? He looks great in college. He has all the weapons and accolades you could possibly want. And if Caleb Williams is the guy, like, yeah, Rome is going to be a problem. So wasn't the best night. Wasn't the best one.
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, the Bears are doing their thing. The Packers were obviously, you know, building onto the team that I think surprised a lot of Bears fans seeing Jordan Love, what he did. I know, you know, Greg was able to, you know, have a quick interaction with him during the Super Bowl. But how'd you feel for the rest of the night, though, after, you know, the Bears give Rome, Caleb, and then you see the Packers do what they did?
Dude, like everybody in the division had a good first round. The Vikings got Dallas Turner because the Falcons were like, let's go get ourselves a quarterback right now. So I was like, that's not ideal. And then the Lions getting Arnold, I was like, that kind of sucks too, because I think he's going to be a great corner. But yeah, and then the Packers getting Jordan Morgan, I'm not like entirely surprised because I figured they would target offensive line pretty early. If it wasn't day one, it would definitely be day two. And it was kind of like a little lackluster, but like a lot of the offensive line picks are. So yeah, I hope that he just does well and it kind of just strengthens it and just protects Jordan Love more and allows that offense to flourish.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've caught the Jordan Morgan versus Austin Booker tape that's made its rounds, but now these two get to match up rookie versus rookie. I mean, is there any part of you, because I mean, Bears fans, you come here on a Bears podcast and we appreciate you coming in, you know, to enemy territory, but you know, we do this every offseason, right? It feels like it, where we get overextended and overhyped about guys that ultimately don't work out. We write the checks. And then when the season starts, it seems to come the other way when the Packers start to cash things in. But does it feel different? You mentioned, you know, it's weird for Bears fans to feel joy, but does it feel different from you that it does appear like the Bears are actually doing things right this time around, where some of the hype is starting to become justified?
Well, I'm so happy you bring that up because I was trying to explain this because, listen, we all know each other pretty well within the division, right? It's kind of like we know where, like, okay, yep, they're doing that, what have you. And I've talked to a lot of Bears fans over the past 9 years. And last year, the hype that was coming from Bears fans was off the chart, because it's like, nope, we're making look at us. We fleeced the Panthers. We got this. And Justin Fields, oh, this is going to be the year. He's going to be the guy, because when he was drafted, it was Messiah. Like, that was the first of like, oh man, because I like Justin Fields. I was like, that's going to potentially be a problem if they do this well. The problem is that you do have a front office and ownership that maybe doesn't make all the right decisions a lot of the times. And because of that, right, we have these expectations, and then it's like, oh no, we fall flat again. But last year, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like last season was different, because last season it was like, okay, Justin Fields is our guy. We saw what we needed to see out of him. Great. Now we have all these weapons. We got DJ Moore for him. Bam, 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 bam. And week 1 at home against the Packers, this is where the new reign of the North is going to begin. And I meant it when I said this, like, week 1, like, devastated the Bears, because it was, are you kidding me? Like, this is the guy's almost first start, because he played against the Chiefs, so technically not first. But, like, this is basically his first start, and he does that, and then it just spirals, right? So I think that there's a significant difference between last year and this year, just because Caleb Williams, I think, has a bit more hype than Justin Fields did. Justin Fields could have gone, like, top 5, something like that. But for Caleb Williams to go 1, there was no doubt about that. Then to pair him with Rome, you have the veteran, at least for 1 year, of Keenan Allen. You have DJ Moore. The offensive line is in a lot better place than it was with Justin Fields. Center, I think you still got to worry about. But I think that if this, for some reason, doesn't work out, then it's like we're hitting every single panic button possible, because Eberflus is there because the defense looked pretty good after the Montez Sweat trade. And I still, even as a Packers fan, I'm like, I don't know if that's the right move, but figure it out. And if they're just like really bad this year, which I don't think they're going to be, then heads are going to roll. But yeah, you just have to have like faith in the Bears ownership and leadership. And I think for Bears fans, like, that's a tricky thing to have faith in.
Tom, if this doesn't work out, I'm out of here. Like, this needs to literally work out, man. Like, it's been way too long. For everyone who's just tuning in, we're talking to Tom Grossi. You can follow him on Twitter and YouTube at Tom Grossi Comedy. Let's flip it to the other side, though. With Jordan Love, the season that he had, you guys go and whoop the Dallas Cowboys' ass in that playoff game. What are kind of the expectations? It kind of seems like every Detroit Lions fan saying the NFC North runs through Detroit. What's Green Bay thinking about that?
I mean, for this upcoming season, Jordan Love went through his ups and downs, right? He had like that amazing game against you guys, and then a good game against the Saints, and then like things started to go poorly. He was turning the ball over, and then later half of the season really started to pick things up. And so I think there's just a ton of excitement with Jordan Love. And with the Lions, like, that's why I really wanted the NFC Championship game to run through Detroit, because they kicked our ass on Thursday Night Football. We kicked their ass on Thanksgiving, like, with a depleted team. So that was going to be the rubber match. So I see like the Lions and Packers honestly like neck and neck. The Lions have a very good team. They have a very solid roster. This took years of roster building for them to get up to this point. And I think with the Packers, there's going to be more expectations this year. The Packers are looking for a division title, but I think it's going to be, neck and neck with the Lions, and whoever can. I think it's going to be like a game difference. But either way, I think they're going to be a playoff contending team because of what they were able to do with so little and so many question marks last year. And now that team has just gotten better.
So what do you think in terms of, Jordan Love? It's kind of this odd thing because he's not a rookie, but it felt like it last year, right? Because it's his first year in. He shows everybody, and I was very impressed with his smoothness. We were kind of tongue-in-cheek watching your family night, the broadcasted practice, and trying to pick apart if he was going to be good or bad. And you honestly could see the smoothness in his delivery even back then. Now, fast forward, he finishes the season with his hair on fire, but now possibly due for big, big money. Mm-hmm. Does that worry you that a guy that ultimately proved himself in one half of a season, now you have to allocate all your resources towards that much money, and that might change the way your roster looks? Or is it ride or die for Jordan Love the next 10 years?
No, it's a great question. And I think like there is definitely some concern amongst some Packers fans of being like, okay, like, yeah, had this great season, really young team, youngest team, but now it's time to pay up, right? And we've only seen a season worth of Jordan Love. I would say the biggest difference is because those first 2 seasons, you didn't know what you had in him, right? The first season's COVID year. You didn't even see him in the preseason. The second one, he gets hurt for preseason games, barely plays. The third year is where you start to see like, oh, maybe a little bit better. Tom Clements comes back. He comes out of retirement for Aaron Rodgers. He stays in Green Bay, which is, I would argue, the reason that Jordan Love was able to do what he did last year, or one of the main reasons. And I think that this way, one, the market dictates you have to pay $1 gajillion for quarterbacks, right? Look at Jared Goff, right?
Yep.
Like, there you go. Jared Goff got lots of money. And so I think now you're paying for the potential of that. I would not be surprised that they asked this months ago before all the signings happened. I would have guessed around like $45 million a year. I think it's going to be close to like 50 now and potentially even higher because that's just the going rate. But this is kind of like what you're paying for. And I think considering the rest of the offense is pretty darn cheap. I mean, all the wide receivers are on their first year contracts or for rookie year contracts. So yeah, I'm not as hesitant because I've seen what I want to see, and the Packers have seen him for 4 years. And so for them to make that kind of investment in him, I think they're making the right move.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that.
I'd pay him too. Full disclosure, I you see it. He's got the arm talent, and he's got some moxie to him.
Yeah, he definitely shows you what you want to see. Tom, I'm just curious though, with this Packers team, where are the question marks right now as they're heading into the 2024 season? What do Bears fans need to know in terms of questions on this Packers team?
Yeah, so right now our center too, Josh Myers. There's some question marks there of like they keep on hyping him up, and Packers fans are like, okay, like sure, we just want to see a little bit more from Josh Myers, but they're gonna put out the best 5. The biggest question marks, it was safety last year, but they went out and got McKinney, who is gonna revolutionize that secondary. I'm so excited for that because he's just head and shoulders better than what we had back there. On top of that, corner Eric Stokes, that's a question mark if you just don't know. We had Valentine playing there last year, but Stokes, we just don't know if he's healthy because he hasn't played in like 2 years. So that's a concern and a little bit of a question mark. And I'd say the other question mark is at middle linebacker. So we had Quay Walker, of course. There's no more Devondre Campbell, who didn't really play well. Quay Walker had a good year last year, but we're bringing in 2 new guys in Hopper and Cooper. Cooper, I'm really excited for, but with this new defensive scheme, new defensive coordinator with Jeff Hafley, there's just a lot of question marks. And as a Packers fan, I refuse to get my hopes really high up because I have also been disappointed by my defense over and over and over and over and over again. So that's where like the biggest question mark is.
So my final question to you before we cut you loose is, as a Cubs fan and a Purdue Boilermaker fan, when we get to the national championship, teams that have been through a lot and a lot of adversity, a lot of tough losses. You mentioned some of the tougher losses for the Bears to start our interview here. Some of the rivals started to root for the Cubs when they finally got to the top to win it all. Or even the Purdue Boilermakers, like they finally laid down the sword, like, hey, you know what, guys, I'm rooting for you. You guys have been through a lot. Is there any part of you that says when the Bears get to the top, or that Caleb might be the guy that you're like, you know what, guys, you've been through a lot. I'm happy for you?
No, but I appreciate the question because listen, let's be very honest here. You have the Lions, right? And the Lions, I didn't mind. It wasn't like active. It was like I didn't mind because like they had been bad for a real long time, right? And they didn't really have any platform to speak on because it was like, what could they look at? Like 0-16, there wasn't anything there. So Lions, I was like, okay, and now we're back to the rivalry. I think the world comes to an end when you have Bears fans saying, you know what? Good for the Packers, man. Good for them. They've gone through it. They've had such tough times. They had to do it. And I would feel the same exact way for the Bears. I like Caleb Williams. Like, I think he's going to be a good player. As I have said, just with Justin Fields, I hope he has an amazing career, just not with Chicago. Like, I hope Justin Fields crushes it over in Pittsburgh. I don't think he will as a returner, but that's neither here nor there. I think for the Bears, their fans will know relief, and that will be nice, but then they're just going to become more insufferable as we all are together. So yeah, we just keep that rivalry burning. I put a Packers shirt on just for this podcast. No, we have to keep the internal flames of hatred growing forever.
Well, we appreciate the candor and you do a lot of great work in this space and a lot of great charitable work. And I just think from a standpoint of podcasting and influencing fan bases, you bring a positive swerve to your deal. So thank you for coming on here today. We'll bring you on here soon, maybe later in the season, week 11. We'll see if we can come say hi to you. But thank you for joining the show here today.
Appreciate you guys. You have a great day.
Yeah, for sure. You too, Tom. That is
Tom
Grossi, and we're going to be talking a little bit about some rankings of position groups here in just a few moments.
But first, Greg, I need to tell everybody about Illinois pork. It's grilling season, and you got to get your pork. People who are active need more protein than the average American. In fact, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietitians of Canada and the American College of Sports Medicine recommend 1.2 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day for athletes. So your Mark Carmans of the world, depending on training. For a 150-pound person, that's about 81 to 136 grams of protein per day. 1 3-ounce of serving of pork provides 23 grams of high-quality protein that can help active individuals build and preserve muscle. The International Society of Sports Nutrition recommends that people who are involved in general fitness program or who are interested in optimizing their health eat low-fat, high-quality sources of protein, which include lean cuts of pork. Our friend Grilling with Dad will be, he was at the offices not too long ago at CHGO studio, and I mean, cooking up all amazing things. So you got to check him out as well. But you can elevate your protein game with lean pork, a powerhouse of natural goodness. Savor the flavor, savor the gains, and celebrate any occasion by enjoying the best pork produced by Illinois pig farmers. From your sausage and bacon for breakfast to pulled pork or juicy chops hot off the grill, it's an entire season dedicated to pork and the people behind the product, paid for by the Illinois pork producers, generations of commitment.
That's right. I want to give a shout out to our guys over at Sunnyside. Obviously with our Friday 120s clubs, where Sunnyside is right around the corner in Wrigleyville. So make sure you hit them up. Our friends at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary are here to elevate your summer. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. They have a crazy selection with over 100 different strains to choose from, with easy online ordering and in-store pickup, very customer convenient. Wherever you are in Illinois, Sunnyside has a location for you. They have spots as far as Champaign and as far north as South Beloit. And like I said, make sure you hit them up in Wrigleyville as well. It's my favorite shop. Stop in the store nearest you for expert guidance from their staff, or select from quality lines like Cresco. They've got a lot of different options, a lot of different things, and Sunnyside is going to make sure they take care of you. So we appreciate Sunnyside, and make sure you use the code HICHGO for 35% off when you hit them up.
Got to check them out, Greg. And, we're going to get into some positional rankings. And I think Bears fans are a little pissed off, Greg, because PFF, looking at the top secondaries, according to PFF, you look at the top 10, the Chicago Bears are not on there. You have to go all the way to number 19 to find the Chicago Bears. But you have the Jets, 49ers, Bills at 3, Ravens at 4, Dolphins, Browns, Seahawks, the Packers, Chiefs and Saints in the top 10. And then the teams still in front of the Bears: the Lions, Buccaneers, Cowboys, Bengals, Titans, Broncos, Raiders, Texans, and number 19, the Chicago Bears. I feel like this whole entire offseason, Greg, we've been talking about arguably the greatest strength on this Bears roster.
I know.
Is their secondary.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's bizarre to see that list and see them that far down. I mean, a team that, a secondary that led the league in interceptions, and the majority of them in the second half. And I guess the person that's going to try to make the opposite argument and say, well, the majority of those interceptions came against Jared Goff. Well, Jared Goff was a pretty good quarterback last year, and they made him look very average. So I don't know. I understand they got some of their interceptions in bunches in some of those games, but at the same time, I don't understand how that can be a detriment to take somebody that's a 4,000-yard passer and then, have them throw multiple interceptions in games against you and say that that's a knock against the fact that you may or may not be a good defense. I don't see it. Makes very little sense to me. I mean, if we look at that list one more time, Steven, I'm just trying to look through the secondary, Nick, and I don't know. It just seems way too far down the list. If you want to say they're not, in top 5, top 8. I mean, you're going to say the Packers secondary is definitively better than the Bears? I guess we should ask Tom about this because, to me, I think there's a fair argument. I mean, they're just watching those teams the last game of the season. It really felt like, there was an even wash in that regard. One team had a quarterback and an offense and a play caller with Matt LaFleur that really understood what they were doing. And the Bears offense was what it was. So, but yet, that game was still pretty close, even though the Bears couldn't move the football or get to the quarterback, which has nothing to do with the secondary.
Yeah, and Jalen Johnson didn't play in that last game either. So, like, the Bears were down their best corner. And, Tyreek Stevenson was the guy out there, and you had Terrell Smith as well. But I think this is coming from PFF, so they're using their grades to kind of dictate what the, where the list comes in. And look, if you look at a guy like Tyreek Stevenson, for example, did he have the best rating overall, especially early on in the season? He didn't. It was really those last 6 games where you watched Stevenson where he really turned it around for himself. So you're kind of looking at, I think, the total grades that each one of these guys had, and then you're ranking this list. And even a guy like Kyler Gordon, he missed some time. So he was probably not as high rated as some of the other guys because, again, he's missing time. So when it all comes down to it, by the time the 2024 season is over with, Greg, I'd be very surprised if this Bears secondary, with much of it having that continuity outside of Kevin Byard, who I think is still going to be a good addition, I think they'll land well inside of the top 10. I do not see them being in that 19th rating that they're at right now.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. You look at it, and I know we're going to get to our rankings here, which we should do now, but like it just bottom line, and I think Bears fans, again, we always get lost in the sauce for our own team, but the hype of what this team could be and the hype of this secondary to me is justified. So that honestly, that brings us to our next point, which was to talk about where we rank these position groups. I know everybody keeps talking about the wide receiver group, even nationally. I know Mina Kimes and some different people were really spotlighting how special that position group could be. So I thought, hey, let's have a little fun exercise here, Nick, where we kind of rank all the position groups with the Bears and really kind of see how things stack up in terms of what the Bears are going to lean on to try to get wins this season.
Yeah, so let's go into this. How do we want to do this? Are we going each just putting out our whole entire list and
I'd say we'll start with yours and then we'll move over to mine because I'm sure yours is much smarter than mine.
I don't know about that, Greg, but here I have the Bears position groups. So we have the wide receivers, because I think you look at the trio there, and even with not the lack of depth, but the lack of proven playmakers behind those 3, I still like the wide receivers as 1. The second for me is a secondary. The linebackers, I'll talk about these Bears linebackers all day because of TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, what I think they can do in 2024. The tight ends, Gerald Everett with Cole Kmet, obviously, I think that's a good group. And quarterbacks, Caleb Williams, even in his rookie season, I expect him to do really good things, given all the playmakers that I have in the number 1 slot and number 3 slot, or the number 4 slot with the tight ends. Running backs, you have DeAndre Swift, and don't know what the workload's going to look like there at that position with Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson, and then Swift, but I still like the playmakers they have there. And then it's the trenches here, Greg, where I put defensive line here at 7 because they have Montez Sweat. And when I look at the level of playmakers when it compared to the offensive line and defensive line, I just think Sweat is the best out of those guys in the trenches. And then I still think there's just some question marks in the O-line. We don't know who's exactly going to play center. Is Nate Davis actually your right guard? And Tevin Jenkins, obviously, he's really good when he's on the field. Can he just, play for, 14 games this season? That would be amazing. But right. So I had defensive line 7, and then obviously the offensive line last there.
Yeah, so we'll go through my list here, and then I guess we can kind of debate the different points. Secondary is number 1 for me. I just think when you compare them and the wide receivers, both very, very good groups that we have here, some of the best position groups. Linebacker, wide receiver, and secondary to me are as close as it gets. If you want to pick which one is the best, I can hear an argument for each of them, but I think across the board, You also consider the depth, like not just the top end of it, because we all understand the wide receivers might have 3 wide receiver ones, but you look at the secondary, Jalen Johnson, a Pro Bowl corner, Tyreek Stevenson, I think is big time. You see the way he ended the season. Kyler Gordon, same thing, has a lot of potential. And then there's a lot of depth on the back end, like we were talking about last night. Jalen Jones and Josh Blackwell, guys that have started games for this team, they're way down the depth chart. You bring in Jonathan Owens. You've got Jaquan Brisker and Kevin Byard, veterans now to this team. I just think they have a lot of quality across the board, a lot of depth across the board. Then wide receivers are my second. Then I'm going to go back to linebackers, at 3, left to right. They've got everything you need. Quarterback is interesting because I've got them kind of smudged in there at 5, but I could have honestly knocked them behind running back, knocked that group behind running backs, because I'm basically just basing this off of the fact that I do think Caleb Williams is going to be good, but we don't know who he is yet. Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, proven commodities. That's why I have that group ahead of the quarterbacks right now. But ideally, I'd prefer my quarterbacks to be ahead of my tight end and running back group in this instance. Running back, kind of same thing. DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert, proven commodities. I like the potential of Roschon Johnson, especially as your 3rd wide receiver on the depth chart. And then offensive lineman 7 ahead of defensive linemen, simply because to me, I know what I'm getting left to right with the offensive line. Do I know if they're going to stay healthy? No, but no team knows whether or not they're going to be staying healthy throughout the season. So I think that goes without saying for any team. The defensive line, we still have a lot of questions if Gervon Dexter is going to be the 3 technique that this defense needs, and they still don't have a pass rusher that's proven opposite of Montez Sweat. While Montez Sweat might be the best player on this team, like you guys talked about yesterday, you got to have more than that. And to me, you look at the offensive line, but the thing that scares me about this list, there are some things that they can lean on to win games, but ultimately to be champions, to be division champs, to be NFC champs, to be Super Bowl champs, you got to win in the trenches. So to have those 2 position groups for both of us at the very bottom causes some concern for me.
And you know what, Greg? Go back to week 18, Bears-Packers. The Bears were absolutely destroyed in the trenches against Green Bay. So if you're looking at like something that can dictate a game,
couldn't get to the quarterback, couldn't protect the passer.
Exactly. And you can have all the playmakers that we have at the top of this list for the wide receivers and the secondary, all that. But if you can't get to the quarterback, or if you can't protect Caleb Williams, that's all for naught. So I think that is a concern going into this 2024 season. And a lot of the teams that are making these deep postseason runs, they have stability and multiple people that they can count on in the trenches. So it is a concern. I will say that I do like, for again, the defensive line. We talked about him as our most underrated player. I forgot who exactly mentioned him. I think it was Glenn Morgan. You have a guy like Andrew Billings being a nice, stable force on the inside, clogging up lanes and doing his job. And if Gervon Dexter is going to take that next step in year 2, like we hope he does, I think, Andrew Billings will definitely help with that. Having a guy like Montez Sweat and, a guy that we could have put in our most approved category in yesterday's episode, DeMarcus Walker. No one even mentioned him. There's not a lot of people talking about DeMarcus Walker right now, too. So, again, that is a kind of it's a scary situation to be in if you're the Bears, thinking that you have all this talent and you have a GM and assistant GM who have been in the trenches, who are former offensive linemen, but those are your question marks right now on this team.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting, and I think ultimately the fact that quarterback is bumped down that list shows that they have enough, talent around this roster where they don't have to put everything on the rookie quarterback to do everything to win games. And so it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. We got somebody else jumping on that you don't see much of here. You hear him on this show here in the last few months, but you haven't seen him. So I'm excited to bring him on here after we talk about a few of our friends at CHGO Sports.
And one of those friends is Mint Mobile. After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by overpriced wireless providers, if we've learned anything, It's that there's always a catch every single time. So when I heard that for a limited time, all Mint Mobile wireless plans are $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, I thought, well, what's the catch here? What's the catch that you're going to get me with? But after talking to them, it all made sense, you guys. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they sell wireless service online. They don't have retail stores or salespeople. Instead, they deliver premium phone plans directly to you. I've recently changed my phone provider because of those exact same reasons. There's always a catch with something, not with Mint Mobile. So bye-bye to overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. Not bad. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. That is so clutch when you can do that. So, and you can also ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's limited time deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/CHGO. That's mintmobile.com/CHGO. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/CHGO. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
That's right. And I want to give a shout out to Gametime. I'm always using the Gametime app when I'm heading to games, and I will only be going to Wrigley Field for our baseball games moving forward, because Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. I always wait. People always call me like, hey, when should I get my Bears tickets? When should I get these tickets? For me personally, the game I play is to wait right until tip-off, right till kickoff, right till first pitch. That's where you can get those last-minute killer deals, all-in prices, views from your seats with Gametime, so you can see exactly what your vantage point is in the stadium, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets and other tickets, whether it's NFL, NBA, doesn't matter. Gametime has you covered. Like I said, save up to 60% off buying last-minute deals for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. Flash deals. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals, zone deals, all-in pricing. And as I mentioned before, the lowest price guaranteed and game ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an app, use the code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute ticket deals, lowest price guaranteed.
Greg, I'm looking at the comments right here. People are putting a bunch of different names. Who could it be?
Is it Woo? Is it Gary Ross? Is it the Duke? Carmi V? It is
Sorry,
not.
guys. It's just me. Me.
Come on, just you. Don't sell yourself short like that. This is our super producer, Stephen Nicholas. Has been on board with us since the Combine. And I was mentioning to him last night, as we're getting into the holidays here tomorrow, the 4th of July, and we're having some fun here in the summer, 17 days away from the first official day of practice at Hallis Hall. Report day is, I think, 14 days away for some players. So we're getting close. And I was like, dude, I feel like nobody has seen you. You're like the man behind, you're like the Wizard of Oz, you're like the great Oz, the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, I'm just this mysterious voice that chimes in here and there. You're right.
Well, you're honestly, not to gas you up here while we get into whatever we're going to talk about, but you're one of the hardest working people I've ever been around, whether it's bricklaying or in this sports media industry that I'm very new in. And he's been a great mentor to me. And he's also extremely humble. So he wouldn't say anything about himself like this. So I wanted to make sure that is known. And the other reason is he doesn't put himself on screen. He's so humble. He'll chime in every once in a while, but he doesn't, jump in the crowd with us. So I was like, let's introduce you to our audience. talk some football because you know your shit when it comes to talking football. You really know the college recruits. Like when we were going through the draft process, there's a lot of stuff that you know even more than me or some of us here on the show at times because you've covered high school sports and college. So I wanted you to be able to come on, show your face for once in your life, and have some fun here on CHGO Bears and get to know our audience a little more.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. And there's like one thing that I've been wanting to talk about for some time. Ever since DJ Moore said it earlier in the offseason, he was on the Up and Adams show. He said, "We all eat. I feel like it's going to be a race to 1,000 yards between the receivers in the room, so it should be amazing." Now, I hear this, and the one thing I think is he's saying that all three of them are going to get to 1,000 yards. It's just a race on who gets there first. So now I go into the research here, and I find out, well, this has only been done 5 times before. Are the Bears really going to do that in Caleb Williams' rookie season?
When you looked up who the 5 were, what were some of those trios, just out of curiosity?
So the most recent one was in 2008. It was the Arizona Cardinals, and these are some good names. Anquan Bolden, Steve Breston, Larry Fitzgerald all go over 1,000 yards.
Steve Breston gets 1,000 yards.
Yeah,
I mean, Kurt Warner was slinging it.
No doubt.
Yeah. And then you go back 2004, Marvin Harrison, Brandon Stokely, Reggie Wayne. Makes sense. Like those are 3 elite wide
What year was that?
2004. Obviously,
this is surprising to me that the last time it happened was 2008, and then 2004 behind that with Peyton Manning. In the passing era that we're in now, I mean, back then, obviously Peyton Manning, Tom Brady really started to, take the NFL to the next level, and the rules were starting to change to protect the quarterback. But it's honestly kind of shocking with some of the numbers, even with Patrick Mahomes. I know he spreads the pill out a lot, but it's actually kind of shocking that you have to go as far back as 2008 that it's happened. And you're saying 5 times, but not since 2008. To me, that surprises me, Nick.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I wonder too, with the evolution of the passing game, like obviously you're always going to incorporate your top wide receivers, but you just mentioned the Chiefs, like Travis Kelce is now a part of this equation now too. Like there are tight ends going over 1,000.
That's
but
fair.
What I'm also thinking of with the Bears, like obviously they have these high goals for themselves, but if they're really aspiring to get 1,000 for each one of those top wide receivers, who I think are all capable of doing that, I think we have to see with Rome, but where does that leave the rushing attack? Because I don't think the Bears are just all of a sudden, yes, they have Caleb Williams, just going to completely abandon what Matt Eberflus likes to do. You have a defense that you should be able to lean on in certain games where you get a guy like DeAndre Swift and he can definitely add to the passing game, but it's just a lot that the ball needs to go around for these 3 wide receivers. What about Cole? Cole wants to eat too, man. Yeah. Cole's the guy that can, gain yards as well.
So to clarify though, Stephen, because I'm seeing you're saying in the chat that this does include tight ends. So you're saying, so this list, that's even more surprised me. Right. So I was to assume that it didn't include tight ends.
It did. So in fact, last season, since you brought it up, that it's been so rare, it's really unusual. The San Francisco 49ers got very close, and they would have done it, except for Deebo Samuel missed 2 games. He ended the season with 892 receiving yards. George Kittle did get over 1,000 receiving yards, as did Brandon Ayuk. So they probably would have gotten there as well. Now, the other thing that we have to consider here, now it's a 17-game season instead of 16. So it should be more likely as we carry on through the NFL than it was in prior years. But the fact that it's still only been done 5 times is just astounding.
Shocking. It's shocking that Patrick Mahomes didn't do it. I mean, what year? What did he have? Like 6,000 yards one year? Like seriously, you have Tyreek Hill who's definitely going to get it. You have Travis Kelce who's definitely going to get it. And you're telling me all of the other, 4,000 yards were spread out to 8 different targets. It just goes to show you that how potent their offense is in the way that they're going to stretch you and throw it to so many different options. So yeah, I mean, obviously the Bears wide receiver group is top heavy, in terms of depth. You're going to have Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen getting the bulk of the targets. But then, you've got Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, and DeAndre Swift. So I guess ultimately to answer your question, do I think that all 3 will have 1,000 yards? No, I don't. I think Meatball Greg last year would have found a way to have all three of his top wide receiver targets get 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
And then you start to see the way the season plays out, and you try to, it kind of knocks you back to reality. You're like, oh yeah. Cause like when at this time last year, when we were doing our season projections, I'll never forget it. Like we were like sitting there going, there's no way that Justin Fields is going to throw for 4,000 yards, maybe 3,500 yards.
Yeah.
But then the math wasn't mathing when we started calculating how many yards we thought each individual player was going to get. And so at the end of the day, there's only one football. You only get so many possessions. And so I just, as much as I would love to see 4,500 yards, three different guys getting 1,000 yards, I don't see it being all that likely with all the different options they have on this team.
Well,
Guys,
just the
I
way you
actually
start
went back-
looking at it. Go ahead. Nick.
Go ahead, Steven.
When you start looking at it, Caleb Williams, rookie year, if you have three receivers going for 1,000 yards, that's already 3,000 plus yards right there. And then you look at his over-under, it's like 34 and some change, 3,400 and change. That's pretty hard to do. And Cole Kmet, he still has to eat. Gerald Everett didn't sign here to sit on the bench and watch everybody else do all the catching. DeAndre Swift is known for being a better receiving back than he is a rushing back. And you just start putting the numbers together. I don't think it's very likely either. Now, if this was the same team and this was Rome's third or fourth season, it would probably be a different discussion for me. And I'd say not only do I think it could happen, I'd almost expect it.
Yeah, in his rookie season, it's hard to do. I see people like, is Nick distracted? I'm looking up the stats for that for that season for Patrick Mahomes. Only Travis Kelce went over 1,000 yards in that.
Not even Tyreek.
That's crazy.
No,
how many total yards for Mahomes?
Yeah, so 5,250. Tyreek Hill's not even on this 2022 team. This is Smith-Schuster with 933 receiving yards, and Valdez-Scantling as the third guy with 687. Like, so that just goes to show you like how difficult it is. And even a guy as obviously talented as Patrick Mahomes, you have the lead guy in Travis Kelce, but some of the other guys don't even get there.
So let's go back because 2008 was the last time, with Kurt Warner, and before that Peyton Manning in 2004. But the most passing yards in a single season, Nick, look this up. 2013, Peyton Manning's 2013 year, he threw for 5,477 yards with 55 touchdown passes. How the hell did they not have three guys with 1,000 yards in that season? And this exercise goes to show you just how hard it will be for the Bears to kind of get to any kind of these insane numbers. That, we have to, as excited as we are, we have to kind of take a step back with some of our expectations.
Yeah, I found those stats for you, Greg. Demarius Thomas, rest in peace, 1,430 yards. You had Eric Decker, 1,288 yards. And then you have Julius Thomas
okay,
with 788 yards.
Now, I think Julius Thomas had a bunch of touchdowns that year. They're like something, I know it was double digits, right?
12. Yeah, he had 12 touchdowns. Wes Welker had the 778 yard. I forgot Wes Welker was on that team, to be completely honest. So I mean, they were flirting with a bunch of guys there, but still they didn't get that trio with 1,000 each. It's a tough thing to do, and if Caleb Williams' and his offense ever get to that mark, I mean, you see what Peyton Manning 5,572 yards. That's just video game types of numbers. That's
where I think it's going to lay out. I think that DJ Moore and Keenan Allen will have just over 1,000 yards each. Maybe DJ ascends because his explosiveness and reliability and just, his comfort with being on the Bears. Keenan, it's his first year. I understand it's the first year in the offense for all of them, but I just think from a comfort standpoint, DJ will be ready to go, and his explosiveness speaks for itself. Keenan Allen, his route running ability, his trustworthiness, and I know he's already building a good rapport with Caleb Williams. So I think those two guys will find their way to 1,000 yards one way or another. But Rome Odunze, him and Caleb Williams are going to go through rookie struggles individually, and then they're going to have chemistry that they have to work through, together, as the season progresses. So I have him somewhere in the 800, 850 range is, I think, the most realistic possibility. Now, if you want to talk touchdowns, that's a totally different conversation, right?
Mhm.
And who's going to be the one to earn the trust of being the go-to guy when you get in the red zone. That very well could be Rome Odunze as a guy that is known for taking 50-50 balls and turning them into 80-20 type, conversations. That's what he prides himself as. So, anything goes in the red zone, but I think, when you're trying to move in between the 20s, I think DJ and Keenan are going to eat up.
Well, let me do a little math for you here, since Rome is kind of the question mark I think we can agree on as the rookie coming in, trying to develop some chemistry with Caleb. I looked at the Seattle Seahawks from last season because Shane Waldron offense.
Yep.
And kind of similarly, they had two alpha types in DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and then there's the third. It's a rookie. It's Jackson Smith and Jigba. He went for 63 catches and 628 yards. I think we'd all agree that Rome Odunze, better talent than Jackson Smith and Jigba was coming in. Now, if he just averages 4 catches per game, Rome Odunze that is, he'll get to 68 catches. Now, Braggs, do you think that Rome Odunze, with his jump ball ability, he says it's not 50-50, it's better than that. It's closer to 100-0 than it is to 50-50, in my opinion. Do you think he could average 14.7 yards per catch this season?
Yeah, I guess I could see that, but that's only because he may not get as many catches, right? He's not going to have 110 catches. He'll have what, 60, 70 catches. Does that sound right?
If I went with those numbers of 68 catches, 4 per game, seems very feasible, and he averages 14.7 yards per catch, he does hit that 1,000 yard mark. And when I put it like that, all of a sudden I can start talking myself into it a little bit.
Well, and that's what happens, right, Nick? Like, we do this every season. It's simple math, and you're even when you're trying to be fair to the conversation and bring the numbers down to what you feel like is more realistic, it still averages out to 1,000 yards for every receiver, 4,000 yards for your quarterback. But these, before you know it, then the season's halfway through and you're not even close to these projections.
Yeah, and it's each game they're going to have specific game plans where they're just going to like the matchup that one guy has above the rest, and one guy could be the main target that game. So we could do the math, and it's like, oh wait, that is really doable. I could see Rome getting the 1,000, and then like you said, Greg, you go halfway through the season, like, okay, it's probably not going to happen. But look at DJ eating, look at Keenan having his game or whatever. As long as Rome Odunze doesn't have a Jackson Smith and Njigba moment when talking about Shane Waldron, I think we'll be good with how he's feeling about his, offensive coordinator in his rookie season. As long as we don't have that, I think we'll be all right.
And let's keep the record straight here, Matt Nagy, our resident troll here in the chat. And we appreciate your loyalty to the show. And we appreciate you always keeping us honest. But you've got to be honest here, too. Because he's saying, remember last season when Braggs thought Fields was going to throw for 4,000 yards? Ha, 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 ha. Now, one, I did try to bet Carm that if Fields threw for 4,000 yards, he had to shave his head. But what I said was, let's keep the record straight here, Nagy, that I had him around 3,200 passing yards and around 800 to 1,000 rushing yards. So it was, if you were going to talk about the 4,000 yards, I saw my way to total yardage in that range. But I was not saying throwing for 4,000 yards. So let's keep the record straight here, Matt Nagy, before we fire you from Chicago for a second time. So we'll have to wait and see. But it just goes to show you in general, just the excitement to watch this offense, the excitement to get to training camp and see this. I mean, if, everybody that went to OTAs, yourself included, Nick, saw Rome Odunze as like kind of this real deal, like, it when you see it. And I don't know if Nick is frozen right now or if he is just so happy.
So happy.
He's so happy. Nick is definitely frozen. That is funny. I was like, he's deep in thought while I'm talking to him, but I'm sure he'll get his internet here figured out shortly. But Adam Hogue even said, like, hey guys, Rome Odunze is the real deal. I love hearing that, hearing Tremaine Edmonds the other day talk about Caleb Williams and what he was showing. Trevon Dexter echoing those sentiments. I mean, they're not going to come on our shows and bash these guys, but some of the tea leaves, some of the little things you're hearing. I'm excited to see it for myself ultimately. Having gone to training camps for 20, 25 years, a lot of times it's it when you see it. And when Alshon Jeffrey came to training camp, you could see the talent right away.
And he was a second round pick.
He was a second round pick, and most Bears fans were very excited the second we drafted him because he was the big body, high point type of receiver that they needed at that time. And when you got to camp, that is exactly what he was doing. And you saw it and it translated. Brandon Marshall coming over from a trade. Okay. You could see the talent. And so I'm assuming when we get there with Rome Odunze, you're going to see that right away. And my hope is with Caleb Williams, I'm seeing something I've never seen before, which is going to be a little trickier for me to identify because every time I try to put my hopes into what I'm seeing with quarterback play, whether all the way back to Rex Grossman and Kyle Orton. And then when Jay Cutler came in, there certainly was a difference in ball velocity, placement, size. Jay Cutler had those things. But then you're hoping those things with Mitch Trubisky and Justin Fields, like certain attributes of what makes a quarterback great. So in terms of quarterback play at camp, I'm hoping I see something I've never seen before. I hope that's the impression I take away the first few days of practice that we get to see.
Well, you say you want to see something you've never seen before. So I'm kind of curious, in all the camps that you've gone to, who is the quarterback that you'll say that was the best I've seen to this point? Like, this is the guy he needs to be better than in camp at the very least.
It's Jay Cutler without question.
Okay.
I had mixed emotions and feelings regarding Jay through his tenure as a Bears quarterback. Initially, the first 3-4 years, I loved him. He was the best, most talented quarterback I'd ever seen at camp. There was the most potent offenses I ever saw at camp, really testing a defense that had Hall of Famers across the board, albeit aging some of them at the time. So it kind of, there was this cross in the road between the offense getting talented and younger and the defense starting to get older, and losing some of what they had early on. But yeah, I mean, there's jokes. When Jay first came here, you could hear the ball through the air, zip through the air, but you legitimately could, you saw the velocity and the ball placement and the bombs that they were throwing to Marshall, Jeffrey, Martellus Bennett, Johnny Knox, even Devin Hester, Matt Forte, it was bombs away. And so that translated. So to me, that's what we're going to have to see. And even 2018, Mitch had his flaws, but that year at camp, before we got Khalil Mack, they had Taylor Gabriel and, Allen Robinson and Tariq Cohen and Trey Burton. And you saw an offense that was, moving the ball all around, and it did translate during the season. Mitch was a flawed quarterback, but there was, signs that offense was going to be able to play a little bit. So Anthony Miller as well. So I guess that's what we're hoping to see here this year, Nick, is some of that level of talent, but upper echelon in terms of the quarterback play.
Yeah, and arm strength is great and everything, but I mean, I love accuracy and layered throws and throwing over a linebacker in a window, those types of things. And that's what I'm going to be really paying attention to with Caleb and just the timing of things. We know he has an arm, he can get it out there in front of guys, throwing deep, but if you can throw it in that tight window, which this league, it's make or break. If you could do that, that's going to be the thing that separates some of those other quarterbacks we've seen in camp that will really show that, hey, Caleb, yeah, he's different. And I think we've already seen some of those throws already, and defensive players have talked about it. But if we see that consistently, that's what's going to be the difference maker for me.
Yeah, 100%. So do we have any new diehards? Have we been doing diehard shout outs? I know Carm is the one that normally does this. Do we have the Carm video of him in Wimbledon?
I do not have this, no.
Oh, okay.
Man, it is definitely worth a watch if you want to check it out on Twitter, though.
Yeah, he put it on Twitter, and he's got this British accent as he's standing on the pitch at Wimbledon, if that's the right term. And, I know he's living his dream out there, seeing much better tennis players than he is. But yeah, he does this accent, which is like, stick to the Jordan voice. Okay, Mark? Like,
which also isn't good, by the way. One of the first comments I saw in that video was, Mark, that isn't it. That is not what our accent sounds like. We'll have to teach you next time you're here in London for our trip over there. For Bears
now,
Jaguars.
if he did a Jordan voice with a British accent, that's like next level, accent that we're looking for here. Do we have any new diehards that we haven't shot out in the last few days?
The last set I see is from July 1st.
Okay. So was that still with Mark here? He got those in. Well, what the hell, people? We need people to sign up to become a diehard, and we're not leaving here until someone does. So I'm looking at you, Matt Forte, or Matt Nagy, not Matt Forte. Matt Forte's
Forte would be great.
I did see a video of Forte working out. I was like, okay, I got to get on his level. My biceps aren't there yet.
He showed up to one of the Bears practices, and the dude looks like he could still play. Like,
yeah,
he's got tree trunks for legs. It's insane. Like, he is like trying to tackle him in the open field would have been just god awful. But
him and because you got King Book of World here in the chat saying Forte was the man and I hated when he went to the Jets. Him and Thomas Jones, two guys that look like they could play tomorrow, and both guys went to the Jets, which was hard to see those guys in those uniforms. Yep. And that was the one thing we didn't get to ask Tom Grossi, who came on earlier, and we appreciated his time. But we didn't get to, I really was curious about, like, and it's kind of so far gone, but just the whole dynamic of Aaron Rodgers and watching him somewhere else. And it almost feels like Packer fans don't like him anymore, which was much different than, how they treated Brett Favre after he left. That whole dynamic is interesting to me. And Aaron Rodgers returning this season will be interesting to see if he can play a whole season and how deep that team will go. I don't know. Do we have anything else, Nick?
We have some super chats we could go through here.
We got some supers.
Let's do it.
$4.99
Victor Cruz.
Hope you get another good wide receiver. Hope you guys are feeling better. Braggs, you're going to be at the Cubs game Friday. Hope to see you there. Also, bear down.
Yeah, I hate to say it, Victor, but taking the week off from leaving the house too far. I'm going to produce a few shows. We got a Sky show coming up here later this afternoon, talking about Angel Reese becoming an all-star. So tune in for that. I'll be producing that. I'm producing for the Bulls on Friday afternoon. So I'm going to take a Friday 120 off. So I apologize. Cody Del Mendo and the CHGO Cubs crew will all be there at Murphy's starting at 10 a.m. But with me, kind of with everything we went through in Milwaukee, and I'm still working through some things, trying to, deal with this knee injury that I have sustained. We just figured it was probably best case that I work from home this week. So I apologize, Victor, but the next time I'm there or you're there, let me know and I'll buy you a drink for sure.
We got, was this Flavio B? I heard what happened in Milwaukee, man. Glad to see you guys good. Love y'all and bear down.
Yeah, we appreciate
it, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, my only complaint about what happened in Milwaukee was Mark Carman was not there to save me. He was, just the one time I need him to save my life, and he's nowhere to be found. So, but that's Mark for you, me guy. Patrick Simmons. This is our guy, $5 super chat. Call me silly, but I think our defensive line is way underrated, and that Dexter is going to absolutely blow up this year. If that's the case, I'm definitely in a, Dexter's got to show it. I think Dexter has a ton of potential. I think he can make plays, but is he a top 3 technique in the league? Not by any stretch of the imagination yet. He has to earn that title. Is he a Pro Bowl defensive tackle? No, he has to earn that title. If you think he's going to be, that's great. If you think Austin Booker and DeMarcus Walker are enough to be the pass rushers opposite of Montez Sweat, that's great, but they got to prove it. Zach Pickens got to prove it. So if what you're saying is you think the defensive line is underrated, then this Bears team, by all accounts of all of us, is underrated. And that means for all of us picking them to win 10 games, if the defensive line is underrated, then they have the potential to win more games than that. So I won't fight you on it if that's what ends up happening, but I'm definitely still in a mode of I got to see it. And Patrick Simmons is saying here in the chat that he is a new diehard.
What can you say about Patrick? Everybody else goes liquid soap. Patrick, he goes bar soap.
Can we get the Jordan? Can we get the Jordan voice?
Certainly. Simmons is our newest diehard.
Oh my god,
that was great.
That was awesome.
Well, thank you, Patrick. We haven't confirmed this new diehard, but we're gonna trust you, Patrick, that you are a new diehard. But that was a good Jordan voice. That was a good Jordan voice. So we got any more?
That was a good Carm doing a Jordan voice impression.
Yeah, and this is Patrick Simmons, who was on the trip with us in Milwaukee. He's got a handle on Twitter that goes by the name Wiley. He also does a podcast, that I joined him with. He was at our draft party, and he's a real loyal, fan to the show. And we appreciate you, Patrick. And we hope you're feeling better as well, because he said, I almost forgot earlier, Green Bay sucks. Milwaukee sucks. American Family Field sucks. So hope you're healing up, my friend. He was also one of the guys that was caught up in the escalator fiasco. And we appreciate all your support here. So just stay in touch with me on the back end and DMs and stuff, and let me know how you're doing, Patrick. So that's it. All we got is the 4th of July next, and all of us need to be very safe.
Yes. Everyone.
I don't have any crazy plans. So yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
I'll have to come back in one piece and, enjoy the holiday, everybody. And, just spend time with people that you love and just hang out, man. 4th of July is a good time.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be exciting. And I think some people want Steven to be in Carm's chair and Carm produce. Can we teach Carm how to be a producer?
If I could teach a bricklayer to do it, I think I could teach just about anybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we got one last one here. Oh, thank you, Crystal. Crystal, $10 super chat.
Let's
you just
go.
get a super chat for that, Steven. Love you guys. Happy 4th. I'm getting on the grill tomorrow. Crystal, I hope you make some steaks. That would make me very happy.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you, Crystal, because if you didn't give a super chat in a show that Carm isn't in, then I would have been mad at you. But since you got one in here in the last minute, we appreciate you, Crystal.
MVP.
I know. Super chat MVP. Like she's given a run for Duke now, like at this point.
Yeah.
Because Duke has abandoned us here this offseason.
I've got a feeling he'll be back right when the season starts.
Yeah. So, well, I'm excited for the 4th. Yep. Thank you, Eric Bochan. If anybody hasn't tuned into the Bears After Dark episode from last night, we had Lester Wiltfong from Windy City Gridiron. He's really, really smart offensive line guy. He's obviously just loves the Bears just like the rest of us and does a great job covering the team, but really good knowledge in terms of the offensive line. So I kind of picked his brain across the board from left to right on that offensive line and his thoughts on the center position and some of the trenches we got into talking about some of that. So if you haven't watched that show, make sure you check it out. And also, as we've said before, I said it on last night's show, if you didn't watch yesterday's show with Glenn Morgan and Herb Howard and Nick Moreano, that was probably the best Bears talk we've ever had here on this show, because I know a lot of times we go off the rails, whether if it's me or Hogue or Carm. And I was listening to you guys, and Nick, you did a great job. It was probably the most mature Bears conversation we'll ever have on this channel. So congrats to you, my friend.
Thank you so much, Greg. We all have our strengths and we all approach shows differently. So I just wanted to give them the floor, and they did a great job. So go check it out. Go check out After Dark, and make sure to come back next week when we're back with some more Bears content.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. So, hey, get a few days off and we'll be back at it here on Monday. All you guys. Oh, your 4th of July. Nick, you got anything?
Not really, man. Just gonna hang out, maybe go with visit the parents, but nothing too crazy. No fireworks for me. Anything for you guys?
Well, Steven will be at a microbrewery. Steven will be at a microbrewery.
No, I won't.
It's great finally seeing you here on getting to see your face here on the show, Steven. Great job, man.
I appreciate it, guys, and I like the opportunity to do that a little bit and talk some football with you guys.
All right. Well, we appreciate your hard work here at CHGO Bears. Make sure you're hitting the like button if you haven't already, and subscribe to the channel. 17 days away from training camp. Counting down the days. Did a Packers preview here today. We'll have a Lions preview next week coming up. Vikings preview coming up. Maybe a diehard mailbag. So if you become a diehard, you can get a question in that becomes part of a segment for some mailbag shows that we'll try to get in. Some different things planned here as we count down the days to training camp.
We all silly like the mayor.